welcome to RT3, or Review Team Motherfucking 3. I didn't swear. Anyway, I am Downloads Bacon, and with me is...
Feem. Bonjour, everyone.
And of course, you can't forget about that guy.
Yes, how could you ever forget about the awesome and very talented CC Trainer Ling?
We've got an episode to tackle down.
Choose your episode. Spendthrifty.
Alrighty, now that we know what episode we're tackling, let's check it out.
Check it out!
This week's episode is Spendthrifty. So the plot here is Cora offers Blythe a second job as a sales clerk at the Thrifty Amore shop, but she struggles to keep her employee discount spending under control. At the day camp, the pets are driven bonkers by a demanding Japanese import doll named Sweetest Sweetsy that Blythe has left in their care while she goes to work.
I guess the first positive that we can tackle down is probably the reference that was made, the King Kong reference in the Pet's Fantasy, or Vinny's Fantasy, more or less.
Yes, indeed.
And yes, the reference was very well appreciated. There's nothing I love more than seeing Vinny dressed up as Andaro in this little throwback to the 1930s.
It seems to be Vinny that comes up with the best fantasy sequences, in my opinion. He always comes up with these weird things. And also, I noticed like the audio was slightly distorted, so it sounded like it came from 930s, so it made it more effective, in my opinion.
Well, that's pretty good. I mean, we all know that Vinny has the best fantasies, especially with one of Vinny's fantasies being an entire episode, and that one actually being really, really good.
Yep. That's one of my favorite episodes.
But I do admire the work and just how they did it, especially you saying they distorted the audio a little bit to make it sound like it was coming from that time. You know, the pets in that fantasy were great also, you know, especially Pepper.
Potato!
Oh, man.
I remember both being amused and slightly confused at what was going on there. It's just like randomly, it was like, potato!
And to think, that was actually just Tabitha warming up her Irish accent, and they just said, forget it, let's just throw that one into the episode.
It is Tabitha we're talking about. She is awesome.
Tabitha!
Not even this show could kill a baby, even if it was a doll. It wasn't the airplanes, it was the pets that killed that beast.
Who's the real baby here? The giant baby toy or us? You know, the baby was something, but, I mean, someone didn't like the baby. Or maybe liked the baby at the end, possibly. It was Minka.
She didn't trust that baby and had very deep suspicions about it. Now, I thought that was pretty interesting, considering that usually it's Russell who always has the deep suspicions. In case anyone hasn't noticed, in the past few episodes of, mostly in season 3, like, Russell has really been suspicious of a lot of things, especially in Back Window. But Minka to be that suspicious, that was a nice little change.
Yeah, I mean, maybe because Russell wasn't concerned that it could be the favorite, so he was...
I would say that, yeah, it was interesting to see. It gave us some funny lines, like, I like the part where Blythe was like, oh, it's so cute, and Minka's just like, no, she's not. It's just really funny.
Like, Minka, are you jelly right now?
Gonna have to send her to the jelly school.
Yeah, but Minka had a lot of awesome moments in this episode, and just, at first it kind of confused me the first time watching it, like in the very beginning, that she was really angry at the baby, but then I was like, oh wait, it's a baby, and then it like starts crying and making all that noise and whatever, and I was like, Minka knew, you know?
Minka always knows.
See?
The moment she pulled out the earplugs, you knew she was the smartest pet of this episode.
See? Also, I can relate to Minka on this, because, man, I used to not like baby dolls growing up. It's like, they used to always be really annoying, and like, they used to have like the crying features and stuff. I used to be exactly like Minka, and like, everyone's like, oh, they're so cute. I'm like, no, they're not.
Basically, it's like, oh, it's so precious. No, it isn't. It's not.
It's not precious. It's annoying.
I hate it.
Well, that baby may be annoying, but not for the returning Cora.
Yes, the Avatar came back to us. Oh,
Cora,
wait.
I'm missed you, my bae. Cora!
Yes, we just need Emma, but we got Cora, bending, elements and hiring Blythe. And hiring Blythe to be, part of the store.
That's what I meant. That's what I said, right?
No.
Maybe. I don't know. But yes, Cora was great. She gets bumped up to assistant manager, and she makes Blythe her underling, if I can say that right, underling.
That way now Cora can say that she sells used clothes and used clothes accessories.
Thank you, Hank.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Cora was pretty cool in this episode. I did like the concern she had for Blythe when Blythe started going a little overboard, She was just like, hey, Blythe, you're going a little overboard,
Although it was her fault for not really mentioning this little discount limit for Blythe.
Well,
but I actually understand. I do understand it was her first time in such a higher-up position. We all would be bound to make them, and we didn't know what we were doing the first time we were actually in that person's shoes in that higher-up position. So I don't really blame her for much of anything in this episode. She was just doing her job. She made one little mistake, but it was easily corrected.
Blythe starts going all spend crazy, working different jobs.
So Cora forgets to tell Blythe about her spending limit, and now she owes a lot of money, and now she needs to get that money paid in full before, something bad happens. So, yeah, she goes off and does some stuff. First, she is a sign spinner for a hot dog vendor, can't even be paid in money, and then she can't even win a pie eating contest, and she only gets a couple cents back for a whole grocery. And then she only gets a couple cents back for just one full grocery shopping cart full of cans. What happened next, Bacon?
Well, after that, she got a job dressed up as a pancake.
Pancakes.
Anyway, so, yeah, after selling, pancakes, or dressed up as a giant pancake, she sees the Biscuit Twins, which would be our next positive here. I really enjoyed the scene with the Biscuit Twins, because, I know they probably have a little bit of extra heat, or they're really, angry at Blythe, in a sense, but maybe, senior day, what happened there, probably, they're still upset about that, but it was kind of interesting, this scene with the Biscuit Twins,
Yeah.
Definitely showing Blythe some tough gloves or whatever.
Oh man, I liked it just when Whitney was just praising Brittany constantly, and then Whitney wasn't even getting the sayings right. It was just really funny, and that was so sassy to Blythe. It was just hilarious. Blythe, they led Blythe into thinking that they were gonna help, and then they're just like, nah, I'm not gonna help you.
But there actually was a purpose to it, to show her that tough love that Blythe needed in this episode.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, you got yourself into this little problem, so now you gotta get yourself out of it.
The biscuits, actually, without knowing, actually helps Blythe. Because if they'd just given the money to Blythe, Blythe wouldn't have learned anything.
Right.
I wouldn't learn anything. I was right all along.
So I'm guessing for their little walk-off as soon as they're done giving Blythe that tough love, I can just imagine them saying something like, yep, there goes Blythe Baxter. The biggest sap to have ever lived. What a stooge. Yes, we all know that is what they were probably thinking after this whole lead-on. But, in the end, she learned her lesson and she paid back the money. But how did she do it? We'll get to that in just a couple of moments.
Yes.
But for now, it is time to dive right in to the negatives of this episode.
Yep. The negatives. Wowee. You know what? I'm feeling generous today. Anyone can tackle the first negative. We have a bunch.
I guess I can just start this one off. One of our first negatives would have to be the sweetest Sweetsy doll imported all the way from Japan. Now, I get the joke that they were going for. Having this lifelike doll that cries and smiles and does things like that, but that's just it. It smiles and cries and does a complete rinse cycle with its eyes, and that's it. And that's only if you don't pay attention to it for more than 5 or 10 seconds at a time. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't, do anything else. It doesn't do any of the other, realistic stuff that regular Toy Baby would do. and to have a 20-year battery life with no off switch. Yeah, I kind of get the joke on how, you're supposed to raise a kid for about 20 years and then they're kind of on their own, but I think there's a limit to how much you can really put up with this thing.
Yeah, more like 20 minutes.
I think...
Or 20 seconds.
I also think, part of it's also a joke with the fact that a lot of parents, and their kids get, Christmas presents from, relatives and stuff, and they're, really noisy toys, and then there's, hardly... their parents can never find the off switch. So that could be, and that could also be a reference to how that happens.
It amazes me that this doll will cry if it doesn't get any attention, but is not going to scream or flail when the pets decide to do some gymnastics with it, throwing it up in the air, kicking it, throwing it through hoops. Nothing. It's fine. It just lands fine, hard smack on the ground, or on a pillow, or on a little wooden teeter-totter. Nothing. No reaction. Yeah. It only cares if it's not being credited as a favorite. And not getting the favorite's attention.
In disguise.
Transformers, Russell in disguise. I will be the favorite somehow.
The baby doll was quite... And it got really annoying after a while. I mean, I know that's the whole point. The pets are supposed to be annoyed with it, but... man, just listening to that baby cry over and over... It was just not good listening, to be honest. If it wasn't for the pets being awesome, I think I would have been like...
It was really tough, but I was like, well, I guess I'll try to ignore it.
But hey, you can't ignore the next negative on this list. The huge plot hole when it comes to this episode's entire timeline.
Yeah, actually, it was my brother who brought this up to my attention, but rewatching the episode, it doesn't make sense because Blythe's plot, by the looks of it, takes place in a span of a couple of days, while the pets take place in one afternoon.
Yeah, it's really confusing.
It's because Cora says for Blythe to be there on Saturday at 8 a.m. Now, okay, that's fine, Blythe gets shop crazy, buys all that stuff. But then in one of the next scenes, we see her at school with Sue, Youngmi, and Jasper, and there's other students there. So the assumption is that it could be Monday, because obviously there's no school on Sunday or Saturday.
But then if you look in that same school scene, you will see that Sue and Youngmi's lockers are filled from top to bottom with all of the thrift store clothes. So obviously it couldn't just be Monday, it might be Tuesday, but then again it could be Monday considering how much Blythe probably bought on Saturday and or Sunday.
Yeah, but another thing I noticed is they decided to give Blythe the exact same outfit, which actually makes it even more confusing because it makes us think that it's the same day, when it might not be the same day, at the same time it could be the same day, so that just made it even more confusing.
Yeah, but then here's where it gets even weirder. It's okay, so maybe we can take into account that, maybe Blythe there's a school event on Saturday, probably. I don't know if any school really does that, but, I haven't been in school in several years, so whatever. But, okay, she worked I'm assuming that the shift is at least 4 to 6, maybe 8 hours. It's her first day, So maybe 4 to 6. So then she would work that, go back, she would go to school, then go back to work.
Blythe's really juggling a lot in such a short amount of time. It's I'm surprised the episode wasn't kind of tackling that issue as well. That could have been part of the episode too, because she's just tackling everything in this span of such a short time. It's how is she even able to do all of that?
Yes, that is what I want to bring up. This episode had a real nice idea, 2 jobs in taking care of this really annoying baby, and basically seeing what it's like to be a single parent in a sense, while also going to school, having 2 jobs, and also raising it. That is the episode that we could have gotten. But it went in a completely different direction.
It's such an odd case. I mean, I'm sorry, really, but this episode is just a giant cluster. It's let's try to work this timeline out. So then, if it's all in the span of the same day, the pets, their plot is only the acronym for 1 day. Because I'm pretty sure if it was a span of a couple of days, they would have told Blythe, seriously, we can't watch this thing for that long. Now, okay, it starts at 8. Okay, she works, I'm assuming 4 hours. Goes to school at 12 for an event or something. 2 hours. Let's just say 2 hours. Then she goes back to work, is getting told all the information, and then, an hour or two, I guess she just leaves, because why not? And then she proceeded to do she went around town collecting cans. She worked as a sign spinner, and what else did she do? Pie eating contest?
Yeah. And then later she got a job selling pancakes.
Okay.
And also, another thing I noticed with these jobs is that she doesn't get paid properly for them. And I'm pretty sure that's illegal to not pay someone if they're working for you. Because, they could then they just paid her with hot dogs and pancakes. It's like, no, dude, you can't do that. You have to pay her with money if she's working for you.
Oh yes, Blythe's money problem. That's one of my negatives here. The one thing that really got me is that we don't know how much money Blythe was able to rack up in 5 paychecks in the course of maybe 3-4 days, because this is where the timeline problem also has issues. If it's let's say 5 hours Saturday and Sunday, let's say that those are the only hours that she has for her second job while she's working at Little's Pet Shop. And let's just say, the working wage for that shop, if Downtown City is truly based on NYC, that'd be about $8 an hour. You take out your taxes and all things like that, you would have maybe, in the course of 5 paychecks, you would have about, $350, $360. Now, if it's true that there's a spending limit on Blythe's employee discount, shouldn't at least the manager or Cora have maybe pointed out to Blythe a little while ago that there is a limit to this? I know it wasn't Cora's fault, she made a mistake, but that manager was probably logging that stuff into the computer when all the stuff is being rung up, unless Blythe's doing it herself and that manager's not paying attention. It just seems very counterproductive to know that she's racking up a huge bill and no one in that store is really taking any notice or trying to warn her about it, especially the manager.
This part was just a bit this kind of relates to the Blythe's money problem. It's like Cece said, it's like, how come nobody warned her? It's like, surely Wendy should have said something to Blythe when all this is going on. When Blythe finally finds out, she goes to talk to Wendy about it, only for her to just gabble on about loads of different things and not even wait for Wendy to answer. And Wendy didn't even try to explain what she was going to say. And it was just a little bit frustrating. It's like they could have resolved this, but instead Blythe didn't kind of wait for her to respond, so she didn't help the matter, and Wendy didn't try and talk to her. So it's just this big lack of communication. Apparently it must be an issue with the people who work there, I guess, because lack of communication with Cora, because she got the wrong thing. But then again, it's understandable because she's really just started that position, so she's going to make a few mistakes at first. But it's like having Wendy didn't inform Cora to tell Blythe that she's doing all this. It's just
I think it's because Wendy is probably too busy looking up videos on YouTube to pay attention. Because if you do look in one of the shots as Blythe is talking to her, you can see that she's on a video website. That's probably what she was doing from the time Blythe walked into the time Blythe walked out. She just shrugs it off and just goes back to the internet. It's almost like she doesn't really want to do her job, or she's just that laid back, or something. I don't know. I mean, if you have a manager who really doesn't care that much about trying to inform her new employee that there's a bit of a problem on her end, then maybe this isn't the best business to be working for.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it does show that some managers can be like that, so I guess it gives us that sort of thing to look at and possibly relate to. It was just confusing and it just could have been resolved easier, but it said that just Wendy and Blythe kind of made it hard for themselves. We should probably move on to the next one.
I think you mean the last one. And I'm going to say this is probably the most confusing and most atrocious negative I've ever had to talk about, but it was the conflict's resolution to this episode, aka Blythe deciding to babysit all of the other Sweetest Sweetie dolls in downtown city to raise up that huge amount of money. Okay, first of all, if I may ask, how many people in downtown city would be willing to buy this doll if it's exclusive in Japan? Unless, of course, a store is selling them to the store internationally, but that seems very improbable considering that the box itself is written in Japanese except for that one little English part. And secondly, how much money could you really raise to just babysit all those Sweetie dolls? And third, how is it that all those dolls are in the same room together, Blythe is looking at them a couple seconds at a time for probably more than 10 or 15 seconds. Why aren't they all crying at the same time? Because no one's looking at them at the same time.
Yeah. Also, how did Mrs. Twombly not notice Blythe bringing all those baby dolls in? Surely she wouldn't approve that. She'd just be like, oh, hi Blythe, you just bring in some baby dolls. Okay.
And to not hear the pets when they were having their own little adventure with just one Sweetest Sweetie. How does she not hear it? Unless she's, taking that very, very long 10-minute power nap.
It's just, man, this is a lot. That just didn't make any sense either. Like, I was thinking the exact same thing. It's like, she was only, like, how were the others not crying? Because when she was only rocking one cradle, or two cradles at a time, and then the others weren't getting attention, so surely they would have been crying, right? So, and also, well, would the owners of those dolls even want them back? I mean, they kind of gave them to Blythe to kind of get rid of them, I think, or maybe they're busy? What?
It's so confusing. Everything in this episode was just confusing.
Yeah. I agree, because it's also like they made it again. They did this thing where it's like they made Roger say that he got it from Japan, and it made it even more confusing because what are these, like you say, Japanese imports of the dolls, or are they being sold where they live? But then why would Roger buy that one from Japan specifically? Is it a different model? I mean, what is that?
Yeah, and if I may add one thing, in the day and age that we are in right now with internet and technology, we're able to, if we're interested in something, we're able to look up video on it and see what it is and see reviews and this and that about it. So with a toy like this, where it cries its head off for 20 years and there's no off switch, it's a Japan import, you still gotta buy it and then pay for shipping and all that other stuff. Who would want to buy this?
Not me.
All? Makes no sense.
I don't understand it either. It's like, I mean, I can understand Roger because he just sort of bought it because I guess he saw it and he thought Blythe would like it. But all the other ones, why was there so many of them? It's like, either they're just parents that are buying them for their children, thinking that they're just a cute little doll, and obviously just not thinking because that happens a few times.
But here's the other problem with that. They have, since it's a Japan-only thing, they would have to have heard about it first.
Yeah.
So either their kid would have to tell them, hey, I want this doll, or they'd have to have seen a commercial, which it won't air in America. So, no, there's no real, it doesn't add up properly.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm usually a very, lenient guy. I'm like, when I watch the show, I've liked episodes that everyone else has hated. About it. But with this episode, it makes no sense. And it's just all over the place. And nothing really adds up at all, so that's something. I mean, I'm surprised no one's really brought this up, at least from what I've seen. But there are good things. I mean, Miko was great, and Miko's my favorite pet. The biscuits were there, and they're my favorite characters. It's just, and then Pepper had a great moment. It's just unfortunate that we have just these little bits of good in just a giant sea of bad. Overall, for me, I'm going to give this episode a 6.5 out of 10. If you don't mind the plot hole, if you don't mind all this other stuff, maybe you can check it out and enjoy it, but I don't know, this episode is just a giant mess.
Okay, so my final thoughts on this episode. I basically agree with what Bacon said with the plot whole thing. It did make it, and with the babies, like the dolls, like when they're, well, basically like Japanese imports, like a whole bunch of people in America had them. It was just really questionable. Like, what? It's just one of those moments I just don't really get how they. It's like it's something that could have been like if they didn't say certain things. Like if they weren't, I guess if Roger wasn't so specific with the location he got the doll in, if Cora wasn't so specific with the date, maybe that wouldn't happen. But I guess because Cora needed to save the life of Day, so it's like I think maybe that could have worked better if they made Blythe meet young me and Sue outside of school. Then it would have completely took away the whole confusing like timeline thing. But there's other bits I did like in this episode, like Minka. I thought Vinny's line with the doll, finding the doll really cute, was really funny because, and then he made that comment like, I don't know what I'm saying. So that was funny. And I loved the King Kong reference. That's probably the best part of the episode. I mean, admittedly, I did get a lot of laughs out of this episode, and it was nice seeing Jasper and Sue come back, and then Jasper does his little pose thing with his sunglasses. I liked Wendy. She was a cute character too, but I just wish she kind of did more. Overall, this episode was very confusing, and the bits I liked, I really liked, and the bits I didn't like, I really didn't like. This is really hit and miss a lot of the time. And it's probably going to be one of my lowest ratings, but I'll give this one 7 out of 10.
Spendthrifty, if I can describe it in just 2 words, it would be missed opportunities. This episode had a lot of potential to create a completely different story from the one we were given. Like I mentioned earlier in this episode, we could have had an episode where Blythe has to juggle having 2 jobs while going to school and also trying to raise this baby doll as if it were an actual baby itself. And that's where we could have had a different conflict, a different resolution, something that probably would have made a little bit more sense, but at least it would have been a lot more easier to follow and probably a lot more relatable. At least that's what I'm interpreting it as. Now even though this episode did have some good, funny moments, such as the King Kong reference and the Vinny freakouts and the whole "why ain't just like pancakes" being asked 3 times, there just isn't a lot of saving grace in this episode. The biscuits were, well, just one of those saving graces, giving Blythe the tough love that she needed. Like I said, she needed to learn her lesson, and I guess by not going to someone else, such as her friends or her family or Mrs. Twombly to help her bail her out, showing that she can do this stuff on her own because it was a mess that she got herself into, it is something that's commendable, but at the same time, it just didn't jive well with me. A big lack of communication at Thrifty Amore, annoying baby screams over the littlest lack of attention, a really bad resolution to this conflict. This episode is just one big hunk of mess, and that's all it is. A hunk of confusing mess, and this is definitely going on my list of top 5 worst episodes that the series has ever pumped out. I'm giving this episode a 5.8 out of 10. Sorry guys, there's just not much for me to enjoy here.
Well, ladies and gentle pets, that was our review of Spendthrifty. So, join us next week when we review... Which episode are we tackling next, guys?
Oh, you didn't know?
Okay, so the next episode we'll be checking out will be Unvetted.
We'll be seeing you there. So, this is RT3, or Review Team 3, signing up.
Peace out, home slices.
Cheerio, darlings.
And of course, pet shoppers, we'll be seeing you in the next episode. So, thanks, and say it with me now with a drum roll, please. That wasn't a drum roll, but whatever. Thanks again.
Potatoes.